Everybody, it's DC the Analyst here with my friend Lake Hicks, and this is the first episode of No Huddle Hoops. And today we're going to discuss Micah Parsons, Terry McLaurin, and the preseason along with some other NFL offseason news, followed up by some NBA news with our opinions, even ending with a deep dive into our thoughts about the upcoming college football season.
First up, let's talk about Micah Parsons wanting out of Dallas. Now, we're going to talk his stat line over his career with the Cowboys, spanning from 2021 when he was drafted out of Penn State. He played 63 games with the Dallas Cowboys, totaling 52 and a half sacks, 172 tackles, and 9 forced fumbles. Now, that is an amazing stat line for a great outside linebacker like Micah Parsons. And, he wants to leave because he's not being paid what he deserves. You want to talk more about that, Devin?
Oh, yeah, I'll get into that. It's just Jerry being, greedy, and we know this. We know that he's one of the worst general managers in the NFL and even in sports, really. He's really the reason why the Cowboys haven't won anything, and they will never win anything in either of our lifetimes. Micah needs to use this leverage to get out of Dallas because he should. I mean, he can be on a way better team. I think he should go to Washington, and we're actually going to get into Washington a little bit after this. Pay him what he's worth. Just pay him what he's worth. He's worth the money. He's been proving that he's an all-pro level player. He's great. Just pay him, Jerry.
And even his teammate C.D. Lamb says something. C.D. Lamb is pressed about the matter too, So we're already seeing some locker room issues with Jerry Jones, with the Cowboys. If there weren't any already,
he's dividing the locker room up.
Most certainly. Now, let's talk about the Washington Commanders and another trade request from Terry McLaurin, who most people think is going to the Miami Dolphins for Jalen Waddle. And, he was drafted out of Ohio State in 2019 and has spent 6 seasons in D.C. playing with the Commanders.
Man, that's been something.
This is actually his first season with a stable quarterback that's actually a star. Through his first 5 seasons, he was just playing with whoever they threw out there, And he's still... 5 out of 6 seasons, he's totaled 1,000 yards and up.
With no quarterback.
With no
quarterback.
And in all 6, he's totaled over 4 touchdowns. And so he is a stud at wide receiver. He is one of the main reasons they made it all the way to the NFC Championship with a rookie quarterback. And, same with Micah Parsons. They just don't want to pay him what he's worth, and he wants out now.
Well, I mean, here's what's crazy. I think they're scared to pay Terry because he's approaching 30. I don't get it because, dude, he's a top 10 wide receiver. He was the only viable receiving option for the Commanders in the playoffs. So for them not to pay him, like come on, they just signed Von Miller, and I'm like, that's kind of disrespectful, man, because it's like you can pay this guy, you can sign this guy, but you can't sign Terry, who contributed a lot to the team and how they did in the playoffs.
And speaking of more bad general managers, let's talk about the Shamar Stewart holdout, which is still ongoing. Since they want to put all these incentives in his contract. They don't want to give him any guaranteed money. And Shamar Stewart was actually seen back at practice with Texas A&M. So it's looking pretty bad right now.
Well, the Bengals are cheap. They're known for being cheap. Universally, the Bengals are known for being cheap. So it wasn't really a surprise, but I'm surprised on how long it actually lasted. It took a while to pay Jamar Chase. I'm hearing places that T. Higgins doesn't really want to be in Cincinnati. And honestly, I don't want to be in Cincinnati either, the city, But he's a rookie, and they feel like, he needs to prove it. But, dude, he's proved it. He was a first-round pick. I feel like every first-round pick should have got guaranteed money because, they're first-round pick. They deserve it,
Most definitely. And, T. Higgins has been wanting out of Cincinnati for a while now, but they keep franchise tagging him and bringing him back. Mm-hmm. And it's like, maybe you could use that money that T. Higgins, is trying to give you by leaving to bolster up your defense because you also haven't re-signed Trey Hendrickson.
But see, they think that's going to weaken up the offense when, in actuality, it won't. But it'll be a good hit because he's a really good number 2. But they're paying him receiver 1 money, and that was just kind of surprising.
And you need to use that money to bolster up your offensive line and defenses, which are your main problems, and is why the Bengals missed the playoffs last season.
And what's crazy is the offensive line, they weren't great, but they weren't as bad as they were when they went to the Super Bowl, man. That offensive line is bad, and that defense is still bad.
So hopefully, the Cincinnati Bengals can come to an agreement with Trey Hendrickson, former New Orleans Saint, Devin's team, worst team in the NFL. But
just like the Atlanta Falcons,
Oh yeah, I'm sure. The Atlanta Falcons are probably going to sweep the Saints this year. But,
man, another 8-9 season looks like.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But the Saints, we could talk about the potential of how they can go 0-17 next year.
That's not going to happen.
I'm sure. But hopefully the Cincinnati Bengals can reach an agreement with Trey Hendrickson and Jamar Stewart very soon. Now we're going to head into the preseason and our thoughts on, Jalen Milroe and Ashton Jeanty. Personally, I always saw this coming with Ashton Jeanty. He is not an NFL running back. He never was. He doesn't have the build for it. He can't perform behind the NFL line. He thought the NFL was the Mountain West in his, draft speech about why teams should draft him. He said, draft a guy they can't tackle. Well, they tackled you really well in the Penn State game in the playoffs, Ashton Jeanty. You totaled -1 yards. Me and Devin have more yards combined than Ashton Jeanty does in the NFL.
Zero.
You want to talk about that, Devin?
Well, Ashton Jeanty, competition was a huge thing. Competition was a huge thing because if he put these numbers up at Georgia, we would be talking about him like he's the best rookie in the league.
But he would have never done that.
He would have never done that because the Mountain West is not competitive as the SEC. Instead of facing Georgia or Alabama or LSU every week, you're playing Nevada. And he got shut down versus Penn State. I'll give you that, but I'll just say this. Calm down a little bit. Give him some time, If he can really just learn how to run through each gap, he'll be fine.
But if that was him in the preseason, what is he going to do against a starting defense in the regular season?
I mean, I'm not denying that. That's also true, but what I'm saying is these rookies, we expect them to produce just right away. We need to be calm. We need to let them develop, I think if he just develops a little bit, he'll be fine because this was the first preseason game, but he's got to do better.
But building on that, a rookie who did kind of show up right away, Shedeur Sanders.
Man,
and, I am very high on Shedeur Sanders. I think the Saints should have picked him at, pick 9, but because they're such a poverty franchise, they went with Calvin Banks. But, the Saints, once again, one of the worst franchises in the NFL, one of the worst GMs in the NFL.
That's true.
Tyler Shuck.
That's true.
Took Tyler Shuck in the second round over Shedeur Sanders. Such a stupid pick. And, in my opinion, Tyler Shuck's going to be cut. 2 to 3 years, he's just not going to be there. So what do you think about, Shedeur's great game he had last
I thought
night?
He balled. I'm going to get on you about the little Saints thing, but I think Shedeur balled. And I think Mickey Loomis is the dumbest GM in the NFL. To pass up on Shedeur, what could he have possibly said to just push everybody away to where we're just not going to draft
trying to send the message, but you want to mess up your team's future for quarterbacks. They drafted Dylan Gabriel over Shedeur Sanders.
I think Dylan Gabriel won in the 4th round, man.
Just makes no sense.
Well, the Saints, I was watching a podcast actually, and the guy was saying, "Oh, we're going to take Kelvin Banks. We're going to take Kelvin Banks." And I don't hate the picks. I actually like the pick because Ryan Ramczyk retired. So I was like, I don't hate the pick. But when I found out Tyler Shuck was drafted, I was like, who is this dude? And I kind of watched his film, and I was like, he's all right. But it's like, come on, he ain't Shedeur.
Yeah, until you checked his college seasons and saw that he spent 7 years in college.
He was on the bench Justin Herbert senior year in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's older than Spencer Rattler, who was recently named the probable quarterback 1 going into this next year for the Saints.
Spence, I'm excited to see what he can do. I think he's more experienced. He'll have like a healthy roster. I think
that's not saying much with the Saints.
Well, this is the same team who goes 8-9 every year, and they have Raheem Morris as their head coach, and their secondary is still the worst in the NFL.
But I think the Falcons' floor is 10-7, and we could really win it all this year. The Saints aren't ever. The Saints aren't going to make the playoffs, maybe for the rest of my lifetime if Gail Benson and Mickey Loomis or so at the helm.
Well, see, you have to understand, everybody's floor is different. Everybody's floor is 0-17. Everybody's peak is 17-0. But we'll see. But we're going to get into the AR-15 injury.
AR-15 being Anthony Richardson. For fantasy managers, that was a nightmare starting preseason game. Completing 2 of 3 passes, but letting up a huge sack that got him injured. We don't know how long he's going to be out for. But it just looks like Anthony Richardson is once again due for another bad season, even though he has all this potential, and that's all people are writing on is his potential. He was drafted to the NFL 4th overall out of Florida just because he looked like Cam Newton.
Man, he ain't it. Everything that is about Anthony Richardson is just potential. It's just potential. Let me see you complete 10 straight passes in a row. He wouldn't do it.
No, because he'd get winded and leave the game for a play like he did last season.
He quit. He literally quit on his team. And that divides the locker room. When you quit on your team like that, when they need you, people look at you like, we don't really want you. And I just don't think he's it. I mean, this will be his year to really show and it was crazy is he might not even start. It might be Daniel Jones.
It might just be Daniel Jones. Did not have too bad of a game against the Ravens, but if Anthony Richardson can't put it together this year, I think he's out. I think he's going to get dropped, and I think the Colts are going to move in a different direction and draft a quarterback next year if AR can't put this together.
That. You know, I could see Garrett Nussmeier going to the Colts. I could see that.
Another quarterback, that kind of looked a little shaky in the preseason, Jalen Milroe. Looked a lot like he did at Alabama, which, that's my squad.
That's pretty ironic that you say that because, I mean, he ran for 4 touchdowns on my Tigers, man. Didn't know how to run a spot. That's a different story.
9 total touchdowns on your Tigers.
Oh, my God. Okay, no one cares. But anyways, the Seahawks, Sam Darnold's that's not the long-term answer. And I'm not very excited about him. I think what he did with Minnesota is more of a scheme thing than more of just a player thing than anything because Kevin O'Connell, he is a good head coach. And I think he could make the most mid quarterback look like a top 5 quarterback. So, But I think Jalen Milroe, he's got some things to learn. But I'm actually excited for him. I actually want to see what he can do.
Could Jalen Milroe be another Anthony Richardson? A lot of potential with not a lot of output? Or do you think, Sam Darnold can really mentor that accuracy into him?
He's going to be the next Russell Wilson. That's
really?
my hot take. He's going to be the next.
That's a stretch.
He's going to be the next Russell Wilson.
But
he's going to start in the next 2 years because I don't think Sam's a long-term answer. I just said that. He's not going to be a long-term answer.
We can get into some more hot takes with our predictions for the NFL awards. Let's start with the Super Bowl. My Super Bowl pick this year is going to be my Atlanta Falcons. We are going to be able to put it all together this year.
Of course he said that,
Robinson,
man.
Offensive line looking great. Michael Penix Jr. is the future. We got Kyle Pitts at tight end. Finally going to break out this year. I heard they've been using him a lot in practice. Drake London and,
Hey, y'all be lucky if y'all even make the playoffs.
Oh, yeah? We're going to top the NFC. You know who's going to be at the bottom of the NFC, though? The New Orleans Saints.
I knew he was going to say that. I knew he was going to say that. But my Super Bowl pick was going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. They're feeling some type of way after they got destroyed in the Super Bowl, got embarrassed. Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be on demon time. So I think the Chiefs get it.
You know what? I think that's a pretty bad pick. Even if my Falcons, were to somehow not win a Super Bowl this year, I would say the Eagles repeat. The Eagles are so good. And they might actually get Micah Parsons. They could actually get him. It is very viable that they do. But, even though I see Micah Parsons going to the Commanders, I feel, the Eagles, if they get him, they'll repeat. And even without him, I think they could repeat.
Well, dude, but, any quarterback can start on that offense. Any average quarterback can still start on that offense.
Are you calling Jalen Hurts average?
I am calling him average.
Wow. Another horrible take from DC the Analyst.
Oh.
We can move into... our offensive player of the year pick, who I think is going to pair with my MVP pick. My MVP pick being Joe Burrow, if they can make the playoffs this year. If they don't, I'm going to give it to Pat Mahomes.
I can see that.
But for offensive player of the year, he's going to build off his MVP. He didn't win it last season when, if Saquon Barkley didn't exist, he would have definitely won it.
That defense was horrible. It was horrible.
But, this year I got Jamar Chase winning offensive player of the year. Mm-hmm. Joey B winning MVP. My defensive player of the year, and this is a little hot, Jared Verse. He looked so good last season. He was leagues ahead of all the other rookies, and I think he's the second coming of Aaron Donald on that defensive line. Mm-hmm. He made quarterbacks really, intimidated. He made them uncomfortable. And, he was already ranked, I think, 52nd in the NFL 100 list.
Pretty good.
So I think he could definitely gun for that depoy next year. Now we could talk about rookies. I think the offensive rookie of the year is going to be the Heisman. Travis Hunter won best defensive player in college, won the best receiver award in college. He's the Heisman for a reason. He was the second pick for a reason. If the Tennessee Titans didn't need a quarterback, he would have definitely been the first pick. He's playing with Trevor Lawrence, who is my comeback player of the year pick. And, he's the wide receiver 2 on this team. And I saw that he was actually listed as a wide receiver 1, but I don't really think he'll be going into next season over BTJ.
BTJ will be really good this year.
So we're going to see about that. He plays cornerback. He plays wide receiver. He's the cornerback 2 on their depth chart, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he is.
We'll see how many snaps he gets, but I heard it's going to be more 70% wide receiver, 30% corner. So we're going to see how he pans out. But I think he is my, offensive rookie of the year pick. As far as defensive rookie of the year, I'm going to go with Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter, 3rd pick in that revamped Giants team.
Yeah, he's mine, too.
They could make some noise. I don't see him making the playoffs, but I do think, as far as defense goes, Abdul Carter's going to go. He's just going to be great, We're going to see a lot of tackles from him, a lot of assists, some sacks. I think he's going to be, pretty great.
And that defense is stacked too, so
defense
they should be
definitely
good.
Stacked this year. And my coach of the year, I'm going to go with Mike Vrabel of the New England Patriots. He's looking very good. The team's looking great. I think the Patriots are going to make some noise, and I think they could finish 10-7 to 11-6 with Stephon Diggs, Drake May, Will Campbell out there, Ramondre Stevenson still looking pretty good. They still got some questions on their offensive line, but I think their defense is going to hold it down. And I think, the Pats could make some noise in the AFC. Sneaking
they're dark horse, but I think they just kind of miss it a little bit because the AFC is that stacked. But I'm going to go into my awards for each individual player. My MVP is going to be Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it's easy. Coming off a Super Bowl loss, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. And he hasn't been the same Mahomes, that we saw his first 4 seasons. He's just gonna be great this year. Offensive player of the year, I'm gonna go with Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm pretty sure you saw what he did.
Alabama legend Jahmyr Gibbs, you already know.
He had to bring up Alabama, but that's besides the point. He had 4 touchdowns in the last game of the season versus Minnesota last year. Great. Defensive player of the year, I'm gonna go with T.J. Watt. I think he still has a little left in the tank. Steelers' defense is going to continue to be great. It's just their offense.
T.J. Watt, the same way Kyle Pitts is always a miss on fantasy, but everybody thinks he's going to be a hit, the same way Anthony Richardson is like that too. T.J. Watt is the Kyle Pitts of the Defensive Player of the Year award. He's always there, but he never wins it, and I do think he's kind of due for a regression this year. You know what?
I could see that, but at the same time, I stand on, he's T.J. Watt.
He was my defensive player of the year pick, and he did finish runner-up, if I'm remembering that correctly, under Pat Surtain, another Alabama football legend, And, I just think T.J. Watt's really going to be, kind of regressed. I don't think he's going to finish, very high. So we're going to see how that pans out.
From Offensive Rookie of the Year, I'm going to pick Omarion Hampton from North Carolina. I think...
awful pick.
I think he'll be in this offense, the offense is pretty run-heavy. O-line could be an issue because they did just lose Rashawn Slater. But
if he didn't go to UNC, would you say that?
I would still say it.
I doubt that.
I would still say it, But... my defensive rookie of the year, I'm gonna go Abdul Carter. I'm gonna go off of what he said. Abdul Carter, comeback player of the year. I'm going to go. Who am I going to go? I'm actually gonna go Trevor Lawrence also.
Really? You're switching it up from Aiden Hutchinson?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Trevor Lawrence. What I've seen by Aiden Hutchinson, man, it don't look good. Hopefully it's just now and he can recover. Because he's not going to be 100%.
He just doesn't look very explosive.
He's not going to be 100% by when the season starts.
Definitely not. Who's your coach of the year pick?
I'm going to actually go Liam Cohen, the head coach of the Jaguars. I think what he did with Baker is similar to what he can do with Trevor. I think BTJ, he's going to have like 1,500 yards. I think Travis is going to have like 1,000 yards. I think he's going to play more receiver more than cornerback more than anything. But yeah.
Do you think he'll get more or less than 3.5 picks? Travis Hunter on the defensive
end? I think he'll get 2. I think he'll get 2.
Strong 2?
Yeah.
We'll see it. Let's jump into the NBA. Now, a recent signing with the Los Angeles Lakers trying to fix their center issue after trading away Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic. DeAndre Ayton has signed with the Lakers, and I'll tell you what, that's a horrible pickup for the Los Angeles Lakers. He reminds me of Hassan Whiteside a lot. Too lazy, really only caring about his paycheck and his statistics. He's an inefficient back-to-basket post scorer. Guys like, he's replacing Jackson Hayes, who shot better than him in the post. He is, there with Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert shoots about 67% from the post. Robert Williams, Shreveport legend, shoots very good in the post.
Sir.
And he shot 56% from the post, and he takes 70%. His shot chart indicates he took 70% of his shots from that position last year. And he also wasn't very healthy. He doesn't play a lot of games. Yeah. So I think what the Lakers think they're getting is a guy who's going to bolster up their offense and defense. But what they're really getting is a lazy center who couldn't care less about winning and only about his payday.
I don't really have much to say. I agree with everything you said. I don't have much to say about DeAndre Ayton or whatever.
Just a kind of a lazy pickup. We're going to talk about now the Houston Rockets climb. Just last season, it shocked a lot of people that they finished second in the really competitive Western Conference. They were knocked off by the Warriors, due to a lot of Jalen Green inefficiencies. They were really inexperienced.
Man, he was really inefficient. He was really inefficient, and he wasn't very good in the playoffs
at all.
And
who did the Rockets flip that inefficient score for? Slim Reaper, easy money sniper, Kevin Durant from the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, they got
Kevin
KD.
Durant, scoring 25 points per game.
We got Jaden McDaniels. I got KD.
Pretty much the entirety of his career aside from his rookie season. Kevin Durant, is a championship guy. Won 2 chips at Golden State. People like to dog on him, but I think
people discredit those because he was playing with Stephen Curry, but dude,
he was the number one option though.
He was the number one option. And he's gonna get you a championship. I think Houston wins it this year just because they have the defense, they have the coach, and they have KD, man. And they're going to win 60 games.
They also kept Amen Thompson. Their all-star Alfred Sengun still playing there. They picked up Clint Capella from the Hawks.
Man.
They got a great roster going into next season.
Sengun's a monster.
And I cannot wait to watch the Houston Rockets play. Now that we're moving into a team's historic rise to the top, we can go to a team who's dropped down drastically, the Boston Celtics, who are now led by their number 2 option.
I'm going to disagree with you with that, but I want to hear what you got to say first.
They're led by their number 2 option and Finals MVP, Jaylen Brown, but I'm not too high on his Finals MVP. I really think it should have really went to Tatum.
Yeah,
they lost Kristaps Porzingis. They lost Drew Holiday. They lost Luke Cornett. And but they did gang in Anthony Simons, who is could be a young star, but he's inefficient. He played on a bad team last year, chucked up a lot of shots. I'm not too high on him.
Well, we both know why they did that. They needed to get under the second apron. And if none of you guys know what the second apron is, it's basically like this, the amount of money you can spend. There's the salary cap, and then you have the luxury tax, and then you have the first apron. And so that's a little bit over the luxury tax. And once you go over the first apron, you go to the second apron.
And the penalty for the second apron, you can't sign players on the mid-level exception in free agency.
Correct.
Which means you can sign less guys. I'm pretty sure you can't do restricted free agents. You're not allowed to do any restricted free agents. If you are in the second apron long enough, you will lose your first round pick. Your first round pick, to wherever it goes to the last available first round position.
Yeah.
And you cannot include money in any trade deals. Those are, just dreaded penalties.
That's if y'all didn't know. But
and if you want to get under, you need to get under the second apron, or your basketball team is not going to be able to function much.
Right.
For sure. So, but what do you think is the ceiling with the Celtics team?
45. No. They should be fine, but I don't see it as a rebuilding year. I see it as a retooling year.
For sure.
They'll get Jason Tatum back in 2026. 2026. They're fine. They have the best front office in the league, and they got a young star. You said Anthony Simons. He's kind of ineffective. I think the Boston Celtics will be able to develop him, but also with Jaylen Brown, I don't think he's a number 1 option. So
Me neither.
That could be an issue, but they'll be in the play-in for sure. I could see them being the play-in team. They could
I think their ceiling is the plan, and I think their floor is kind of just outside of it. I think they win maybe 39 to 41 games this year.
It's not bad considering the roster they have.
In the Eastern Conference, you win 41 games. You really could lock up a playoff spot with 41 games.
Facts.
And, the Celtics becoming, kind of bad this year really puts, the legitimacy of the Eastern Conference. Because the Celtics were holding it down, keeping the Eastern Conference somewhat relevant.
I hated Boston.
But, man, the East lost two juggernauts in the Pacers and the Celtics this year.
It's the Cavs and the Knicks year to win. It's the weakest the East has been.
They have no excuse.
No, none.
It needs to be a Knicks or Cavs. They need to put on a show in the Eastern Conference. Keep their legitimacy up. And moving off of the Celtics collapse, do you want to talk about some extensions?
Paolo is deserved. Paolo is deserved because Paolo he's a fringe top 10 player. He's almost there. Orlando just needs to build around him, but you're like, who wants to be in Orlando?
He reminds me of LeBron James in a way of his build and his abilities. He's kind of an all-around player.
That's what I'm saying. He's really, really good. And he's very underrated just for the fact because he's in Orlando. It's not a big market, so a lot of people don't talk about him. His extension was deserved.
It's good that they're building around him with the trade for Desmond Bane. They
Correct.
gave up a lot for Desmond Bane, but I think it could really work out.
First-round picks, I want to say.
A big three of Franz Wagner, Desmond Bane, and Paolo Banchero. We're going to see how that pans out. Another extension I want to talk about is Devin Booker, who signs a 2-year deal with the Phoenix Suns.
I think he's gone after his extension.
Definitely. If the Phoenix Suns can't put it together after those 2 years, Devin Booker's gone, and I think a good destination for him would be the Milwaukee Bucks if Giannis is not already gone. I think Giannis is kind of stupid for staying with Milwaukee, especially, he wants to be loyal, but his second option right now is Kyle Kuzma.
In this current league of the NBA, I've had to learn that you can't be loyal because you're not going to win a championship because they're not going to build around you because I feel like they don't respect you if they can't build around you. They don't see you as anything. But I think Giannis, his best bet is to go to the Golden State Warriors. And I'm not saying this because I have some type of bias, because I might. That's probably the best place for him to go. If he wants one, that's where he can go because Milwaukee's just not going to build around him anymore.
And, it would be a big three of Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Giannis, but outside of them, who do the Warriors have? Because they would most definitely have to trade.
They have They don't have any bench. They don't have a bench. They don't have a bench.
So, we're going to see. I would love if he could come to my New Orleans Pelicans, but we both know that's not going to happen. He's not going to want to play in a small market team, and we would have to give up Zion, which I'm perfectly okay with if it's for Giannis, but I just don't think it'll work out. But Devin Booker, Milwaukee, I could see him going. Giannis was already mad that they traded one of his best friends in Chris Middleton to the Washington Wizards. He was upset when they cut Damian Lillard, who went back to the Portland Trail Blazers, which was a big surprise. And he actually said he was going to do that when he originally left them. Mikal Bridges signing back with the New York Knicks.
Knicks got a steal. They honestly, I thought he was going to get paid more. I'm not going to lie. I thought he was. But they got a steal. Jalen Brunson, took a little pay cut for him to come back, his Villanova teammate. But like I said, Knicks, this is their year to win or lose. They have to make the finals this year, or they're going to have to blow it up because, like I explained, they're going to probably be over the second apron in a few years. So hopefully they can contend in the East.
Speaking of a team that's miles ahead over the second apron for the 2026-27 season,
Oklahoma
City Thunder have given max rookie contract extensions to Chet Holmgren and J-Dub. J-Dub was an All-NBA player last year. Chet Holmgren held it down somewhat in the playoffs. He wasn't amazing in the finals, but he did what he needed to do to get them that championship.
Chet played like Celtic Shaq in the finals. If y'all don't know that, Celtic Shaq was like, he was super washed, which pretty much means he wasn't good anymore. But they're paying J-Dub like a first option. I don't get it.
He's being paid more. Him and Chet are being paid more than the reigning MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which is wild, especially for Chet Holmgren, who's very, I think he's overrated. I don't think Chet Holmgren's really all that. He doesn't play that much. He wasn't extremely reliable in the playoffs. Isaiah Hartenstein had to come kind of pick up some pieces.
And they're going to have to get rid of him soon because
because they're like the second apron. Say it's here. The Oklahoma City Thunder are here for their next season when those max rookie extensions kick in for J-Dub and Chet, they're going to have to shell out a lot of players. They're running it back with pretty much the exact same squad.
And they won't have to worry about it this season because they don't have to pay them. But next offseason, oh my goodness. But what saves them is that they have all those first-round picks that they got in the trade with Paul George in
Nikola
2019.
Topic, who they drafted last year, is going to be playing this season, so we'll see how he pans out. And if there's ever a year to repeat, since the Golden State Warriors have repeated, this is the year OKC has to repeat in. Because that championship window closes a lot
it's them,
for that next season.
It's them and Houston.
Them in Houston. Yeah. The Knicks. But, we'll see there. And we're going to go ahead and move into college football.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our preseason poll thoughts. A team I saw on there that was just much too high was Arizona State. With a lot of guys leaving.
They lost everybody.
They lost a lot of guys.
They lost their best player. I mean, he literally put the team on his back and carried them in that quarterfinal game versus Texas.
But to me, this AP poll, a lot like others, mirrors last season's result pretty tightly. I think teams like Miami, South Carolina,
Miami's not
SMU,
going to be that good,
and Arizona State, all are not going to finish within the top 17. The Florida Gators, you said you had a problem with being in the top 17.
Dude, I mean, they're celebrating an 8-5 season. At LSU or Alabama, you get fired if you go 8-5.
But Alabama will never have to worry about that anyway.
Well, they went 9-4 last year. We went 9-4, so we had the same record. But that's besides the point.
Meaningless bowl game.
Yeah,
was our fourth loss, but it's whatever.
Meaningless bowl game. Man, the only problem I had was Texas being over Ohio State.
That was weird because Texas,
Ohio State won the championship.
They won the championship. Texas, they got the most expensive roster in the league, but they have some question marks coming into next season.
If anyone's number 2, it should be Notre Dame.
Yeah,
it should be Notre Dame.
Notre Dame was under Georgia, who, in my opinion,
and Georgia got slapped.
They're shaky this year.
Yeah, man.
Especially with Gunnar Stockton. I'm not too high on him. He doesn't look amazing. But, overall, I think the preseason polls are okay. And, only time will tell who was meant to be there and who was not. I have a problem with South Carolina being in there because, it's kind of just Lenore Sellers hype, who he's just not on my Heisman radar.
They didn't really impress me last year. I mean, they were good, but they weren't they didn't really impress me. I don't know what it was. They just didn't. They just seemed like a little off. But yeah.
How about we talk about Memphis being barred from the Big 12? What do you got to say about that, Devin?
Market-wise, it makes sense because Memphis is a small market, and also you said it's one of what else did you say about it?
Memphis is in a dangerous city with a small market. They were, putting in a $200 million bid to make it to the Big 12. And they were declined because of, TV rights deals. There are other teams from a weakening ACC that could also be in the Big 12, later. But I think Memphis is a team that's been very consistent. They beat West Virginia, which was a Big 12 team in their bowl game. They beat Florida State, who, although had a really bad season, they are an ACC school with a rich history. So I think, teams like Tulane, teams like Memphis, they should have the opportunity to play up out of the American Conference.
Yeah, for sure. Get that exposure more than anything.
LA Tech was accepted into the Sun Belt, so, I don't see why Tulane or, Memphis couldn't play up into the Big 12.
But see, the Sun Belt is a smaller market kind of conference for teams. So I wasn't really surprised Louisiana Tech went to the Sun Belt.
Yes, now let's get into, some NIL questions. Should NIL be guaranteed?
Yes, it should. Because think about it. If you're a 5-star, and let's just say you want to go to Texas A&M. I'm going to use them as an example. You want to go to Texas A&M. And they're like, no, you need to work first. Like, dude, I have offers from Bama. I got offers from Ohio State, Texas, some of the other top schools in the nation. Y'all never won anything. Y'all go 8-4 every year. So, I think it should be to a certain degree. I think it's elevating the college field, in my opinion, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. It's reshaping the landscape.
The landscape.
Teams who you thought would never have ever had a actual chance of winning anything in, say, the Bowl Championship Series era, the BCS, the CFP, College Football Playoff era, where it was just 4 teams, now they actually have real chances with NIL to win this stuff. So, yeah, to an extent, I think NIL should be guaranteed, but really just for, 3 to 5 star prospects. because you need to pay him.
I think
they're not going to go there.
Most so 5 more than anything because they've proven that they're at the highest level. I feel like, but you got 3-star. You got
1. Do you think they should have to prove it on the field?
To a certain extent, but at the same time, no. I feel like I'm kind of neutral where I stand right there.
Yeah. Speaking of NIL, Ohio State University spent $20 million on the roster that won them a championship last year. Is it viable now to buy a national championship?
I mean, well, yeah, Ohio State. I mean, they bought their roster. They literally went to the national championship, spending $20 million.
But the thing is, they didn't spend the most. Texas did, and they didn't win it. So is it really, or anybody can beat anybody on any given Saturday?
What's crazy is, yes, you say any given Saturday, but like you can argue like Ohio State and Texas, they did not have the best quarterbacks. They were average at best, in my opinion. All they had to do was manage the game because they had like all these transfers and all these 5-star prospects that they had. So the quarterback wasn't really asked to do much. And when Quinn Ewers was asked to do something, he failed.
And maybe there's something you don't want to talk about when it comes to, teams spending $20 million plus on championship, on trying to win a championship, and then not making the playoffs, like Louisiana State University. Well, you gotta say anything on that?
Well, I mean, all I can say is you're right, but you're wrong.
I'm right, but I'm wrong. LSU spent $20 million on their roster last year and did not crack a playoff spot. They didn't even finish in
Okay, let me explain. Let me explain. First of all, they have Brian Kelly. He's never won anything. He used to be at Notre Dame. If anyone didn't know, he used to be at Notre Dame. And he never won anything there. I just don't think he's the guy. I don't think we've really had a guy since Nick Saban, to be honest with you. I think that was really the last guy we had.
When he tried to come back, what did they do?
What did they do?
They said no. That's right. LSU said no to Nick Saban. And who did he go to? The best college football team in history, Alabama Crimson Tide, and he won 6 championships with us. So, just LSU being LSU.
Yeah, let's not mention that he bought his players, too. He probably paid them under the table, bought a little bit.
That's not confirmed.
And that's why he retired, because he couldn't buy them. He could not buy them out anymore. And so he felt some type of way, and he was like, I can't do it anymore, right?
Yeah, I'm sure an LSU fan would feel that way. I mean, any prospect would pick Tuscaloosa over Baton Rouge any day of the week.
Man, I'm not going to no Alabama.
You're not going,
no, I'm not.
Have the chance?
No. Staying out of Alabama, I got to stay in the home state, man. It is what it is.
Yeah, whatever, man. Our Heisman radar. Who do I think should win the Heisman? Devin hates to take, but Drew Allard. I mean, he threw for 3,300 yards last year. He had 24 TDs, only 8 picks. He's accurate. He's got a star-studded roster. He is going to be amazing next year. I cannot wait to watch him. He is my Heisman pick. And, Devin thinks it's a bad take. Could you explain why?
I mean, I just don't see how he elevates his team. When you're a quarterback, I feel like you have to elevate your team. What does he do to elevate his team? He has a good defense. He has a good defense. He has a good run. He has a good running back duo, and Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. But what does Drew Allard do for himself? What does he do?
Well, he wills him to the playoffs. I mean, sure, he didn't have a great semifinals matchup, but he's entering his senior year. He's due for a great season, and he sure does.
Penn State, because Drew Allard's at Penn State. Penn State hasn't really produced a quarterback. Maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully, I'm wrong. I hope I'm not. Garrett Nussmeier's going to win the Heisman.
Garrett Nussmeier's going to win the Heisman. And you said, what does Drew Allard do for the team? Yet, Penn State spent less money on the roster, and they made the playoffs with Drew Allard.
First of all, they made it in a weak conference. They're in the Big Ten. It's weak. Their schedule they just blew past their schedule.
I wouldn't say the Big Ten's a weak conference.
I would. Ohio State, Penn State,
Michigan.
Oregon. What did Michigan do? Michigan lost half their roster, though.
maybe they weren't amazing, this past season, but, the Big Ten, you can't just say is a weak roster when I think, the second best conference college football's got. But, what exactly does Garrett Nussmeier do to elevate himself on the team? They went 8-4. No, they went 9-4 and did not finish inside the AP top 25, despite having a $20 million roster.
I'll just ask you, and, without saying, how much they spent, why do you think they missed the playoffs? I want to hear what you have.
Why do I think they missed the playoffs?
Yeah.
Well, because, Garrett Nussmeier, he was good last season, but he wasn't all that great. Defense is still an issue, but there were definitely some games LSU blew,
Texas
mostly
A&M,
on defense.
Texas A&M.
USC. They'll have that game locked
up. That was
up.
defense, though.
Y'all almost lost to North Carolina.
South Carolina.
But, Florida, y'all should have won that game. And that they should have won that game. The offense didn't do enough. Garrett Nussmeier is not exactly leading them anywhere. Maybe he can win the Heisman. Maybe. But I think, Drew Aller is just a better pick.
Well, LSU, like I said, they have Brian Kelly. They're not going to do anything. But Nussmeier he elevates the team to a different level that I don't think any quarterback in the country that I've seen can do. The way he led that Ole Miss game-winning drive, the way he led it in that Ole Miss game. He didn't have a great game. He didn't play great. The way that team came back and fought in that South Carolina game, I know we almost lost to him, and that's not good, but there was just something different about him. Like, he had that clutch factor that I felt like no other quarterback has.
Where was that clutch factor against the Crimson Tide? Speechless.
Garrett Nussmeier, he's a good quarterback. I think a lot of the issues and what people see, they see the interceptions. At one point, I told somebody, dude, this guy's Jameis with the amount of interceptions he throws. And I love Jameis, but, man, that dude throws a lot of interceptions. And if anyone doesn't know, Jameis threw like 30-something picks like 5 or 6 years ago with the Buccaneers. And it looked like that in that Texas A&M game. He played bad. And it looked like they had the game in the first half, but they blew it. They blew it because of the defense and Nuss's turnovers. But I think he fixes that. That was his first year starting. I think he gets a lot more used to things around him. Do I see LSU winning a championship? No, I don't. And that's just coming from me. I just don't see what they can do to win a championship, even with the roster that they have. I don't, because you have Brian Kelly as a head coach. The defense could still be an issue more than anything. So I just don't see how they can win the championship. I think Nuss does have a really good season and wins the Heisman.
Okay. Moving past that, you want to talk about Arch Manning's hype?
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. Definitely not. He played a bunch of bum schools, UTSA, some FCS.
Oh, look at him. He's the next Lamar.
He's just not warranted. I can understand the hype, but it's not warranted. He just, when they put him in against, gave him real reps against real teams, I didn't really see it.
He struggled.
They took him out, put Quinn in, back. They put Quinn back in the game pretty quickly. And
with Texas, though, I just never really, I don't know. It was just something about their quarterback play. It just wasn't great last year.
No, it was not. Quinn Ewers actually played very well the season prior to when, this just last season when he played.
But you got to associate with them being in the Big 12 and the schedule
that was the Big 12. Yes, that's true.
And the schedule being a whole lot easier than being in the SEC and having to play top school every week.
Texas doesn't have a hard schedule this coming year.
No,
so Arch Manning really doesn't have an excuse.
They have the same schedule as last year, actually.
Definitely not. Arch Manning, if he can prove us wrong, which hopefully he does.
I hope he does.
But he just has an easy schedule, so he has really no excuse not to prove us wrong. Right. Definitely not. You want to talk about Garrett Nussmeier and his clutch factor you said that he had?
I think he has a clutch factor.
Against Alabama, he scored 7 real points?
Oh my God!
It was a garbage time.
This dude keeps on bringing up Alabama.
Was it Bryce Underwood at that game?
I don't know.
I saw Jalen Milroe in back-to-back seasons. He had 9 total rushing touchdowns against the LSU Tigers. defenses couldn't contain him. And I was told all year long that we were going to get whooped because we were playing in Death Valley. Brian Kelly, he's never lost a game in Death Valley when it's at night. Well, guess what? Alabama came in, stormed in 42-13, really 42-7. For that garbage time.
Here's the thing. I really don't get what you want me to say. I mean, y'all beat us. So congratulations. Y'all beat LSU in a regular season game. Congratulations.
A playoff eliminator. That was a playoff eliminator.
You were gonna.
It wasn't just
we were gonna.
Season game.
Here's the thing. They were gonna
downplay Bama like that.
They were gonna lose anyways. And
that's not what y'all said before the game, though.
Okay. Here's the thing.
That's not what y'all said.
Didn't y'all lose to Oklahoma like 2 weeks later? Y'all lost to Oklahoma 2 weeks later, and then
we were already out by then.
Y'all lost to Vanderbilt. Y'all literally lost to Vanderbilt.
That was a trap game.
It was a trap game. Come on, man.
They didn't set us up right for that game.
That wasn't a trap game. Y'all weren't saying that.
Nick Saban was still there. We would have steamrolled.
But Nick Saban isn't there anymore. But here's the thing. Y'all had just beaten Georgia, and y'all lost to Vanderbilt the next week.
But we also had a quarterback whisperer at our head coach playing with a guy who plays like Lamar Jackson. And, I thought we were going to win the game. Everybody thought we were going to win the game.
Of course, y'all thought y'all were going to win, but y'all didn't.
We didn't win because we just weren't prepared for Vanderbilt. But I'm saying, you said Garrett Nussmeier has this clutch factor. He played from behind against South Carolina. He played behind South Carolina game, did just fine. Playing from behind against a real team, and that's what wins Heisman's. Playing from behind, playing clutch against real teams. I don't think he has that factor.
Okay, so I'm gonna just say this. Who was y'all's last Heisman winner, right?
It was
Bryce Young. When did he really have a Heisman moment? I didn't really see him have.
When did he have a Heisman moment?
Yeah, when did he?
Is that a serious? The Auburn game when he won that game for us. National when he SEC championship.
In that Auburn game. In that Auburn game, for anyone who doesn't know, Alabama was trailing the whole game. This was like 2022, 2021 or something. They were down the whole game to 6-win Auburn, and then they pull off this upset in overtime or something, like they did something when you're losing to Auburn. Like, that's not saying much, and y'all own Auburn.
He was the best quarterback in Alabama's history. The best one. He went number one in the NFL draft. He won the Heisman for a reason. And you said, what's his Heisman moment? I mean, I don't know. Maybe, he's, I'm looking at it right now. He's first in Alabama season passing yards, first in Alabama season, passing touchdown, first in Alabama in career 5 touchdown games, second in Bama in career passing yards, and second in, Bama career passing touchdowns. And how many seasons did he play as a starter for Bama? Two. And, all that in only 2 years. I mean, come on. That's Heisman, if we've ever seen one. And, you have to be, stellar to win it. I don't think Garrett Nussmeier is anywhere close to being like a Heisman guy.
Okay. I mean, that's your opinion. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna. That's your opinion.
I'm sure. Surely, it's just an opinion. But anyways, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for episode 1 of No Huddle Hoops. We'll see you guys next Sunday. Tune in with us next Sunday. Thank you, for being right here on No Huddle Hoops.
Appreciate
first episode
y'all watching,
with me
man.
and Devin, and we will see you guys next time. Goodbye.